and you, I share my screen and say to everybody, welcome. Yes, it's time of the week. It's Wednesday. It's 8 a.m. and it's another Leadership Weekly Roundtable specifically focused on humanizing transformation. And today, what we're going to be going through is we're going to be going through 10 hacks. So I'm going to share with you 10 hacks. And actually, I'm not going to share with you 10 hacks. It's just, it's a really good marketing phrase, isn't it? To get people to come along and feel a little bit motivated. It's just 10 elements that are integral to our framework, the Dylan Way, which is all about human and social transformation. So I want to share with everybody 10 of those elements today. So there we go. So little agenda, we are going to go through the 10 hacks, and then as always, I will open up. It's a round table, it's not a webinar. So what I'd love to do today is just give you two little challenges. Challenge number one is, as I'm going through the hacks today, and you might instantly just hear a word that's familiar with you, and just, your brain will just go tick, I do that, I know that. And then I'll wait until the next hack that Mel talks about. If that happens, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to think about how you could go maybe a little bit deeper, maybe scratch the surface a little bit more. So if it's familiar to you, can you go that 1% deeper? And if it's new to you, then maybe bring it to the round table at the end and just see, just talk to me if you'd like to know a little bit more about it. So that's how I'd like you to really think about today's hacks. And as always, Mel always loves a quote, eh? So, and this is the quote that I found today that I thought it was lovely. People ignore designs that ignore people. My God, it's so simple. It's so profound. What a great little reminder for us all, 8 o'clock UK time on a Wednesday morning. And, I love this. And I love this because it makes me think of a conversation I had with a transformation director recently, actually. And he said to me, Mel, I've gone through human-centered design, and, I've gone on human-centered leadership programs and, all of this kind of stuff. What do you really mean when you say humanized transformation? I thought it was a really good question. And I thought, wouldn't it be good for me to answer that question for you all today, given, a lot of you are here as wonderful, loyal regulars. So what we mean by humanizing transformation at its simplest level is putting humanity into every moment of transformation. So if we break that down, first and foremost, what do we mean by humanity? It's putting the human, understanding the human, it's putting ethics, and it's bringing compassion into everything. And then when we say every moment, what do we mean by that? And this is the thing that we sometimes lose sight of when we're leading or involved in transformation, that sense of putting humanity into every moment. If you think about human-centered design, etc., we place all of our effort and all of our resources into understanding and designing just for the end user. But we've got an entire audience value chain. And if we're really going to humanize transformation, bring the human, understand the human, think ethically, make decisions ethically, and bring compassion and care into every single moment, then what we need to be doing is we need to be bringing it into every single human that is impacted and involved in the transformation. And that's leaders, that's ourselves, that's our team, that's our suppliers, that's our partners, absolutely everybody. So all of that wonderful stuff that we are placing resource and effort into understanding and wrapping our arms around the end user, as transformation leaders, as human transformation leaders, we ought to be thinking exactly the same way for each and every human in the moments throughout the transformational journey and what we call the audience value chain. So that's something that I just wanted to share with you all as we start and kick off today's session. So I'm going to go straight into it. We've got 10 hacks. We've got a leadership roundtable to talk about. So let's go into it straight away. Hack number one is actions drive insight. Might be familiar to some of you, might be new to others. What do we mean by actions drive insight? Well, the most important element that I want to share with you here is this. As human beings, we are more likely to trust in data that we feel we own than data that we feel we don't. And a lot of the time when we're thinking about business cases and we're writing strategies and plans for change and transformation, digital or whatever, what we tend to do is we tend to substantiate our business case with it's being done over there, therefore that's the proof and the truth for us to believe that it will work over here. And when we're taking case studies from over there, when we're taking what's happened outside of our organization, we're using what's called analogous data. And that's okay in support of, but it ought not to drive our business case for change or transformation. What we want to be doing as human transformational leaders is we want to be creating actionable data, generating actionable data that we can put into our strategy and our plan right at the very start. Because when we take that to the leaders, the committee, the board members, the PMO, the organization at large, if we're able to say, we tried this in this tiny area, we had this little experiment, and this is the data that showed up for us, that connection of ownership will increase people's likelihood to adopt. So actions drive insight is a really important thing. And it's great for us as well, because if we want to engage people in transformation, if we're able to create tiny little experimental actions that they can get involved in, well, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? They're gonna feel that they belong to the transformation right at the very start. So actions drive insight, really important. It's incredibly counterintuitive though, because the way that we have been taught in the Henry Ford model of business, in the Michael Porter formula for profitability, we've been taught to seek insight first. We've been taught to seek perfection. We've been taught to get it right before you move. In a world that's so complex, in a world that's defined by what we call UPOPO, if you remember, untapped potential and possibility, what we want to do is we want to create actionable data in order to drive insight that is true to us. And we want to move as quickly as we possibly can. So get out of the starting gates, create some actionable data, use that data to substantiate and support your business case. And then everything else in terms of case studies and user stories that are a little bit more broader and analogous, they can just add weight to it. They can fatten your case as opposed to drive your case for change and transformation. Hack number one. Hack number two, how many right answers are there? We're not supposed to be looking for the solution. If we've identified a challenge as a human transformation practitioner and leader, the next thing that we want to be doing is we want to be going out to our people and our users and asking how many right answers are there, because there is more than one right answer for any problem in the world right now. If you think about 2.5 quintillion bytes of data being created every single day, that maturity of technology that is constantly growing and all of the connectivity that's happening around it, then really it's so sensible to think there's more than one right answer for any given problem or solution. So what we want to be doing is we want to be asking people, how many right answers are there for this problem? How many right answers are there to this opportunity? And then experimenting out from there. It's a beautiful little hack to get people engaged with transformation, and also helping people to recognize that there's just not one straight line from start to successful finish, that there are always different avenues for us. So it helps us a little bit with pivots and being adaptive and agile and iterating. How many right answers are there to this problem, to this opportunity? It's a brilliant hack to adopt in our practice as transformational leaders. And the next one, and this one might be one of the ones that sounds a little bit familiar, so you might put a little bit of a check tick against this one in your brain, but think about it a little bit deeper. Language matters. Language absolutely matters. And when we think about language, it's not just the words that come out of our mouths. It's the words that we put on paper. It's the pictures that we create on slides. It's the physical interaction and stance that we employ in a meeting, on Zoom, etc., etc. And most importantly, it's the energy that we communicate. Just giving ourselves a moment before we go into a meeting, a presentation, a design session, or even a piece of work that is personal to us that we're going to be conducting on our own, to think about the energy that we're going to bring into it and communicate is a really, really strong and powerful thing to do. So when we're talking about language matters across all of these levels, what do I mean? Well, really what I'm talking about is, positive psychology and positive language. So right from the get-go, from the positioning of transformation, the strategy paper for transformation, the plans, the internal communications, right down to content, what we want to be doing is using positive language. And if we just become a little bit more mindful and conscious of the language and the narrative and the pictures and the physical interaction and the energy that we're bringing to our transformation and making it positive and seeing where it's not, it is incredible that when you scratch beyond the surface, where you can see areas that you can connect to human and really humanize your transformation. Thinking about yes and instead of yes but. Thinking about ways to encourage challenge and critical thinking that doesn't necessarily mean that there's a win or a lose or a right or a wrong. Thinking about a coaching approach to conversations as a practitioner when you're working with leaders, when you're working with teams, or when you're in discovery with users is a really incredible thing. So thinking about positivity in the verbal, visual, physical, and energetic language that we use in transformation will help us humanize it. And, one little reminder, in each one of these hacks, if we're thinking, if we can humanize through each one of these hacks our transformation, we're going to be more likely to accelerate success. And that's what this clearly is all about. Okie dokies, next hack, purpose. Those of you that have been with me over the last few weeks will know that we've actually talked about this one. Connect our transformation to a purpose or cause. So incredibly important. Why? Because it means that we're connecting humans and they can feel a sense of belonging. It's absolutely vital for us. I would say that this is the one that is zero tolerance. Make sure we do it. And it doesn't matter what our change or transformation project is about. It could be the most technical, the most structural. We can still add cause and purpose above it and use that to connect to the human. Great hack for humanizing transformation to accelerate success. Next hack, hack number 5, only design to the 16.5%. We don't want to design in the first instance for everyone. We want to design to that tipping point, to that 16.5%. And if you remember in one of the earlier leadership roundtables, we talked about the different profiles of modern leadership. And we mapped those profiles of modern leadership, of which there are 4, we mapped them to the curve of innovation of change. And the curve of innovation of change doesn't need to be argued because it's so pervasive, and we have all recognized and we're all probably aware of that curve of innovation of change ourselves: an innovator, an early adopter, an early majority, late majority, and laggard. And what we know is we know that as humans, what we are, the audience, the humans that we are most likely to follow and trust are the humans that are most like us. So a laggard will not trust or follow an innovator. A laggard will trust and follow the late majority. The early majority will not trust and follow an innovator either. They will trust and follow an early adopter. So what we want to be doing is we want to be designing with the innovators and the early adopters in mind, so that we can get the innovators and then the adopters who most likely will give us in our human systems somewhere around 16.5%. And when you get to 16.5%, you can read the tipping point for Malcolm Gladwell. We know that that is where we tip over to mass. So if we want to bring everybody on the journey, instead of designing and delivering to everybody, if we design and deliver to the innovators, that then we can shift over to the early adopters, we know we have got that 16.5%. And then it's designing to the bridge that gets our early adopters trusted and being followed by our early majority. So there's something in here about designing to the 16.5%, which is this: understanding the identity of the humans in our transformation against those profiles. And if we're able to do that, then what we can do is we can map the design and the deployment of our transformation so that we get to that 16.5 as quickly as possible. And that's a much better way of bringing humans on the journey of change and transformation than just going out to design for the mass. Or, and I know there's a lot of people here from public sector, what we tend to do with service design is we design for the vulnerable. We design for essentially the laggards, the people that are probably in a complex or in a situation that they're furthest away from our design. So if we put all of our effort and our resources into designing for them, we are doing the best and the ethical thing. Well, we're actually not, because as humans, we follow, we look up to people around us that we trust. And we know all of that when we think about, you know, when we're buying things, when we're thinking about trends in the consumer market, and you think about fashion. Fashion trends are all based on this principle. So hack number 5, design to 16.5%, not to 100. Next hack, as a practitioner, it's great to be a practitioner. It's great to have the competency of change and transformation, to know that you've got these qualifications and this experience behind you that gives you confidence. But does it humanize transformation that you've got this stuff? Does it humanize and connect with people around you that you are bringing that power and that energy to your work and in your practice? Not really. What we want to be doing is not seeing ourselves as practitioners as much as seeing ourselves as role models. And if we can see ourselves as role models, then what we're doing is we are positioning ourselves as a leader before a practitioner. This is so important. When we work with practitioners, project managers, you know, service designers, it doesn't matter, customer service team leaders, when they see themselves as part of change and transformation, they see themselves as that label. And what we want to do is we want to raise them up so that they can work and explore who they are as a role model so that people can follow them. Because there's always followership within the organization. There are people that look to the team leader to follow, people that look to the service designer to follow, people that look to the project manager to follow. So it's not what you do, it's who you are. Positioning ourselves and helping our teams and our peers to position themselves as role models. Super important hack for humanizing transformation. Very, very closely linked to that previous hack number 5 and tipping point. Hack number 7, transparency. This is another one that you're probably going to go, oh, Mel, I'm open, I'm transparent, I share things, tick, done that. Scratch the surface with me for a moment. What do I mean by being transparent? If you think about a lot of the work that we do around change and transformation, especially from a communications perspective, what we are doing is we are sharing what we have done, or we are sharing what we intend to do. What we intend to do is future focused. What we have done is past historic. There is nothing in the present moment there. And that's where the disconnect comes from when you're thinking about transparency and communication to humanize transformation. It's okay to share what you have done in terms of metrics and reporting. It's also okay for you to communicate what you want to do and what you intend to do in terms of bringing people on the journey and understanding that moonshot, if you remember when we talked about Maya. But the missing key to real humanizing transformation when it comes to communication and transparency is being open and transparent about what you are doing. Share what you are doing, not just what you've done in terms of metrics and reporting, or what you intend to do to motivate people for the journey. Share what you are doing, because when you're sharing what you're doing in the world of change and transformation, it means that you've got human connection and people can see the reality of it. And that's so incredibly important. And there's a couple of ways that you can do this, which I just think are wonderful. One area is to start working out loud, to adopt the principle of working out loud. And you can do that in different ways. You can do that with sharing week notes. You can do that with creating mural boards, or just boards on SharePoint where you can see that. You might have a Kanban. You might have a Kanban within your project team, but why not share that Kanban with the entire organization? Make it visible and transparent, because Kanbans are great ways of communicating what you are doing. And it allows people to see the reality, because it's now, it's present. If you're only communicating past and future, it will be great for theory, it will be great for business cases, but it won't necessarily humanize your transformation in delivery and deployment. So hack number 7, transparency. Hack number 8, seek truth. Be a truth seeker. And what I mean by this is, so many times, and even I myself do this, I mean, come on, let's take the boxing gloves off and let's be open and honest about this. I assume, I make things up in my head about people and about data, and I make that my reality. But reality is just based on my perception. That's not necessarily truth. Truth is fact. Reality is perception, right? Our perception is reality. So as transformation leaders, what we want to do is we want to, as much as possible, apply critical thinking to everything, even the way we think ourselves, and say, is this truth and fact? And it might sound so simple, and you might think, oh, Mel, come on, I do that. But honestly, even the best of us, the best of times, would do really well to keep this in check and really, really have this in our consciousness. Is this truth and fact, or is this perception vis-a-vis my own reality? Really, really important. And socializing that with people as well. So hack number 8, seek truth. Hack number 9, the penultimate hack, micro moments. What am I talking about here? Well, this bit here is all about taking that transformation and change from over there in the distance, a place that is just totally unreachable for everybody in the organization, and bringing it into now. So it's connecting change and transformation to business as usual. And the way that we do that is taking microscopic elements of our transformation and bringing it into our daily routines. And you can do it with anything, even if we're in a really basic, mundane technological program where we might be changing from on-premise to cloud technology, from legacy to software as a service. We're updating our technology, and you're thinking, how, Mel, how am I can't, because people are using the old technology and it's a big deployment. How can I bring that into now? Well, we can, because what we can do is we can just take tiny elements of what that new technology will bring in terms of 1% uplift to daily life, to daily routine for our users, and get them to start thinking about it and start practicing it in daily moments. We can take some people from legacy technology and start getting them to use the new technology in that way and bring it back in. We can equally start getting people to experimentally think, to apply thought experiment to these micro moments. So trying to understand how we can take tiny elements of the future and make them possible in the moment of now is really, really key. And it might sound a little bit nebulous, me saying this to you, because it's infinite in terms of its possibility and its reality. But honestly, just thinking about it and asking yourself the question and really working through that with your team is an incredibly important part of humanizing transformation. If we can do this, what it allows us to do is it allows us to bridge the gap between change and transformation and our workers and our users, our end users. And so often, I don't know about you, but the transformation and change programs that I've been involved in, there's been a project management office, there's been people scurrying on the, up to the 5th floor and behind closed doors doing big design, and then there's going to be a big reveal to the organization about what this is going to be all about. I'm disconnected to that. What about me? It's being done to me, it's being done without me. So right from the get-go, if we can create micro moments and bring them into daily routine, super, super important and special hack. And hack number 10 is socialize to the power of 3. Those of you that know our work and the Dylan Way framework and practice will know that sharing is a really important part of our work, because we know that when you socialize learning, you accelerate change and transformation. But sharing is one way, in terms of sharing what you know, sharing your knowledge, posting on LinkedIn, posting on the intranet, all of that sharing, or sharing in a meeting. I want to share with everybody what I learned today or what came out of the data. Sharing is great, but it's only 1/3 of what we ought to be doing in order to genuinely share and socialize. So to socialize to the power of 3 also means to teach. So you can share something, but how can you teach something new? How can you teach it, and who will you teach it to? And equally, is there an individual that you might be able to coach this through with? So socializing to the power of 3 allows us to share broadly, to teach to many, and to coach to 1, 2, or a few. So it allows us to actually capture as wide and as narrow a human system as possible with something new that we know or have experienced or want to share. So socializing to the power of 3 is really, really important. So that brings me to the end of our hacks, because it wouldn't be Mel Ross, would it, without me giving a little bit more than I promised. So I want to share with everybody a bonus hack. And my bonus hack today, which is one I love, is adopt a pilot's mindset. And what do I mean by that? More often than not, when we are on the journey of change and transformation, we've got our strategy, we've got a plan, we might hopefully have actually got some humanized moments that we're designing, and we're using Maya, and we've got community design principles in place and all of that wonderful stuff, and we are role modeling, and we're in the thick of daily delivery of transformational change, and we're in the thick of it, so we're in the weeds of it, and our head is down and we're scurrying towards a goal or a target. No, as if we humanizing transformation and being transformational leaders, what we want to do is we want to look up and take a pilot's mindset. And what that means is to believe that at any given moment, you're off course. So the pilot's mindset basically means this: at 95% of the time, when pilots are in the air, they've got their start point and they've got their end point. 95% of the time, pilots know that the aircraft is off course. So the majority of the work that pilots do when they are flying an aircraft is always navigating back to course based on where they're going. And if we were to apply this tiny little mindset to change and transformation, can you imagine how it might change your practice or projects and programs around you that are specific to change and transformation? If we, as a transformation leaders, constantly think that we are off course and we're navigating back on course toward that moonshot, then what that means is we are basically taking an objective balcony view constantly. It's a great way to get out of the weeds. We're off course, how do we get back on course? You are constantly, with a pilot's mindset, connecting what you're doing now to your moonshot. And really socializing this and making that, bringing it and embedding it into your practice is a fantastic hack for humanizing transformation towards that moonshot and bringing people on the journey. So 95% of the time we are off course. So navigating back on course towards that moonshot is a really important element. So thinking about the 10 hacks that I shared with you this morning, I actually mean 11 hacks. Here is a list of those hacks. So number one, in summary, is action drives insight. We want to create actionable data to drive and lead our transformation. We want to be asking how many right answers and thinking experimentally about how many different solutions there might be. We want to be mindful of our language, not just in the words, but across visual, across physical, across energy, and make it positive. We want to connect to purpose in order for us to connect to human. We want to design and deliver to the 16.5 because we are after the tipping point. When we're humanizing transformation and we are applying and focusing and prioritizing the human, it's the tipping point we're after, not the 100%, because 100% will come from the tipping point. We also want to role model rather than practice. And, I think for me, this is a really, really important one because it's so easy for us to fall into being a practitioner in whatever capacity we are, whether we're a trainer, a facilitator, a project manager, a designer, a product designer, a business development manager. It doesn't really matter. But if we can see ourselves as a role model, a modern leader and role model, before we see ourselves as a practitioner, then that's a really, really cool way of humanizing transformation because it will incite followership. And number 7, the transparency hack. It's about doing, not done, or wanting to do. So thinking about that, bringing the present moment into how you're being transparent about what you're doing. Hack number 8, be a truth seeker and keep in check with yourself as well. Be critical in terms of your own questioning. So question yourself, is this truth and fact, or is this my own perception and reality? Hack number 9, micro moments. Just bring those micro moments into what you're doing. But, if you've got an innovation lab over there and you've got everybody else over here, that's not going to humanize. It's not going to connect them. There's no sense of belonging. Micro moments will bring a sense of belonging. And hack number 10, socialize in 3s. Socialize to the power of 3. Don't just share, teach. Don't just teach, coach. Think about that and make sure that you've got all 3 of those in order to socialize your transformation and humanize it. And finally, adopt a pilot's mindset. Think about how are we navigating back on course to our moonshot all the time. You'll have people around you that have got their heads in the weeds, but us as transformational leaders need to be thinking, are we on course here? And take the pilot's mindset and assume that you're off course in order to navigate on course 95% of the time. It will keep you connected to the moonshot. And before I open up today to a wee bit of Q&A, and Vivian, I hope you've got that first question ready and waiting. What I want to do is I just want to summarize a few additional hacks on top of what we've already talked about, because to be fair, everything that we've talked about in previous weekly roundtables are hacks in and of themselves. So bonus hacks, design for community. So apply community design principles to our transformation and our change journeys at the start, because culture will follow. Culture is complex. Culture takes time to change. Culture self-evolves. Even if we influence and force culture through values, we still can't actually control it. So if we can design transformation and change based on community principles, the culture will follow. The second hack that we've talked about, of course, is there is no one single leadership profile. There are actually 4 types. So we don't want to conform everybody to one profile type. We want all 4 of them in order for us to get that momentum around the innovation curve, the bell curve of innovation. And whatever we're doing, whatever project or program we're working on, whether it's technical or structural or strategic or operational, it doesn't matter. It's designing for the human across the entire journey, not just for technology. Super, super important. Of course, we talked about Maya in that instance. So, banana skins today, only 2. 2 banana skins to be mindful of that we don't want to slip up on based on those hacks that I've shared with you today. Banana skin number 1, lack of consistency. Every single hack that I've shared with you today is not an on-off switch. It's not a thing to do and then you've done it and off with life until the next time you need it. Every single hack that you've heard today is something that is behavioral and something that can be habitual. And the second thing for a banana skin is don't fall into the separation curve. Don't fall into the trap of thinking it's them and us. It's you and me. We are all humans within this. Don't fall into that separation curse. So the provocation I gave everybody at the start of today, I wonder how many of those hacks you might have first thought, oh, I got that, Mel, no worries, I'll wait until the next hack. But did you scratch? Did you go deeper? And equally, you know, what hack that was maybe a little bit new to you that you might be able to take today and use it? One of the things that I do say to everybody is this: it's a really good thing to create your own human manifesto. So whatever you're working on, whether you're designing a program from a learning and development perspective, whether you're in a project or you're designing a strategy, as you're designing that strategy, put together your own human manifesto. And what I mean by that is, what are the 10 top things that are non-negotiables for you as a human transformation leader that you will apply and adhere to consistently and habitually throughout the journey of what you're working on in terms of a project and program? Put together your own human manifesto, make it a habit, and you make it your identity. So everybody, what can I say? See the eyes, see the world with new eyes, see the world with a new perspective. So if it was familiar to you, then just dig a little bit deeper. And what I'd like to do now is I'd like to completely open up today. So I'm going to take myself, come off share. I'm going to look at everybody's lovely faces and I'm going to open up and just see where we're all at. So I've got, you might have a general question and I'm happy to take total general open questions today. We've got a few minutes left. So yeah, so any general questions first, and then I might ask some questions to everybody.
I have a question.
I knew you'd do it. Go on, Vivian.
It's actually about the hack number 1, the actions drive insight. I'm still wrapping my head around that one, actually, because I do feel like absolutely ingrained that it's the other way around. And I wondered if you could talk me through some examples just to help get that one sunk in.
Yeah, so to give you some examples, answering a question with a question. Are you working on anything at the moment?
Yes.
Is there something that you could share? Because if it is, then I might be able to help you think about how you could do it in real life.
Just thinking about, for instance, working with an organization that has multiple CRMs, not an uncommon situation, and designing a program to consolidate those CRMs.
Okay, so you're consolidating CRMs into one, so you're taking many to one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what you might want to do is you might want to do some work with teams around how maybe the value of common behavior. And what you might want to do is do some workshopping with them and talk about just something as simple as behavior. This is a non-technical way of action drives insight. So what you might want to do is you might want to just go into a workshop and create a workshop around common behaviors that are good, common behaviors that are really important to us, that help us move forward, and get them to understand how commonality, when we've got a single behavior that we're all using, how that really strengthens us. And that's data, and that's data that they own, and that's truth. And then what you can do is you can start having a conversation that then builds into, and actually what we're doing here is we're thinking about consolidating different CRMs into the strength of one. So then you can start having a conversation with them based on that data that we know is true to us from a behavioral perspective. Can that insight help us now navigate and understand what the value might be from that perspective? So a very, very simple behavioral action to drive insight can help you engage and humanize from that perspective.
Really helpful. Thank you, Mel.
No worries at all. No worries at all. Any other questions? Any other thoughts?
It's not so much a question, Mel, but just an observation around hack number 3, which was language matters. And it's one that I have long advocated, because it's not just about the words, it's about what you say when you don't say anything, and that whole body language, non-verbal communication piece. And just listening to you speak reminded me of, and I know I've mentioned this chap to you before, Mel, but his name is Gavin Oates. And in one of his books, which is called Shine, he talks about an experience he had where he called it the Mary Poppins moment. I think the chapter in the book's called something like A Spoonful of Sugar. And it's about his experiences as a young teacher and being in a staff room where, really felt quite unwelcome. And then one person walks into the staff room, she says nothing, but her presence is so powerful. And he says it's like Mary Poppins floated in. And actually, he then talked about how he wants to channel, it became his mission in life to channel his inner Mary Poppins, to have that effect on other people, not just by words. It's a fabulous book, so I know I'm plugging his book. I have no commission here.
Brilliant.
But that language matters is so far beyond just the words, and I think that's really important.
Absolutely. And energy is a language. Energy is a language. That is a fantastic example. Thank you so much, Lorraine. We're a few minutes over on today's roundtable, but I can see Mazin has got his hand up. So I recognise and appreciate if anybody needs to go and grab their cup of tea or grab their cup of coffee for the rest of the day. But Mazin, I'm going to hang around anyway until 9 o'clock UK time. I'd love to hear your question or your thought, Mazin.
Yes, hi Mel, thank you so much. Hi from Estonia. Quick question on the Human Manifesto that you mentioned, the top 10 principles that are unquestionable, or what is your advice in communicating this manifesto at every transformation initiative? So would it be a good advice to tie in my personal human manifesto at every transformation initiative with the transformation program that I'm running? How aligned should it be? Maybe that's the question, sorry.
Yeah, okay. That's a really good question, actually, Mazin. Thank you. And I hope the sun is shining in Tallinn, where you are at the moment in Estonia. Absolutely. So a really good question. I think the answer to the question is this: if you're able to create your own human manifesto, your own non-negotiables, then that becomes part of your role model purpose, your role model values, your human transformation identity, who you are, your profile. So I think from that perspective, it becomes part of who you are. So it's how you then bring that to life. So I think there's a nuance here, Mazin. I think it's less about just want to let everybody know this is my human manifesto. It's more about our people recognizing the principles that are your non-negotiables for humanizing transformation in the way that you behave and the way that you act. And the easiest way to understand that is they're using your language. They're following your behavior. They're saying and they're doing and they're thinking and they're believing and behaving in ways that are similar to you. So I think, you know, I guess the intention that I would bring to this as an answer is tie it into the role modeling. So create that human manifesto that are your own non-negotiables, because there are so many, but you know that the ones that are true to you as an individual, and then start thinking about how you will be able to externalize them and show them within who you are as a role model leader. That's what I would do, is connect it in with role modeling. Notwithstanding, you know, you've also got hack number 7, which is transparency and thinking about working out loud. There's no reason why you cannot have on your own intranet, on your, on your bio, maybe on LinkedIn, or, you know, in certain areas where there is, you know, a virtual presence of Mazin, you might want to share 1 or 2 or all of those non-negotiables, so people understand where you're at, people understand where you're coming from.
Sure. So for example, I'm noting down certain principles, like for example, respect. Respect of diversity, respect of genderification or gender equality. When we have a team that is driving transformation, respect the other. That's full stop. Listen before you talk, right? Things like that. And these are, I guess, beliefs and principles that could be at a personal level, but also in a team fabric. Would that be something?
Yeah, absolutely, because everything that you've mentioned there is for you, for Mazin, personally and uniquely to you, that they are 2 things that you believe humanize transformation and change. You know, they are 2 elements, you know, respect and equality. What I think would be, you know, incredibly good for you to do is to turn those words into belief statements. Yeah, so I believe that blah blah blah. When I you know, so when I say I do, when I say when I think I act. So if you just turn those words into statements, into belief statements, then that is further humanizing, you know, just words, you know, words on a board. Because, you know, we can all say that we're respectful, we can all say that we favor and support equality. But if you're able to substantiate that and follow that up with a belief statement, now that is different, and that's, you know, and that's really important.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries at all. Everybody, thank you so much for today. We are at the end of another weekly roundtable here every Wednesday, 8 a.m. We're talking about an element of the Dillon Way framework, the framework that helps us humanize transformation to accelerate success. That's something that, you know, sometimes you feel a little bit, oh, you know, it's a little bit icky, but it's really important. When we humanize transformation, we accelerate success. We're all in this for success, right? Whatever success means to us personally and as a human system. So there's, you know, we shouldn't be apologetic about that. So every Wednesday, 8 a.m. I am here for 45 minutes, if not a little bit longer. I hope everybody has a fantastic day today. I hope you have enjoyed today. Please share the link and you know, the socialize as much as you can. So, you know, share, teach and coach what you've heard today, and also the roundtable itself, so that we can build as much of a people movement around humanizing transformation as possible. So yeah, go forth, pick one of those hacks, see if you can get that hack into your day today, and let me know how that goes. And hopefully I will see you all next week. Take care. Thank you again, as always.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.